Right, folks. So I'm not even sure what episode this is for Open At It with Basil, but we're walking. Ray has been kind because I'm after training. I'm after training chaps, and I'm after doing another interview today. So I'm banjoed, but I'm have a gentleman, and I can't wait to hear his story. But he's come all the way down from Waterford to do this, and I really appreciate it, Ray,
Oh,
genuinely.
thank you. Thanks for having me, Bess.
Um, I'd like to introduce Ray Power.
Hello, everyone. How are you? How's things?
So Ray, you're from Ballybake.
Yeah.
We've literally come into we're in Ramsfort Woods, which isn't Ramsfort Woods, that's Willow Park Woods. So I'm from Willow Park, which in Gorey would have been classed when I was growing
Okay.
up as the roughest estate. I'm not saying Ballybake is. I know I boxed down there. I
Yeah.
spent a good bit of time down there. I've loads of friends from Ballybake and actually from Waterford,
hmm
so I know it's a fantastic community as
Yeah.
well. But I'm going to honestly, I'm very happy to have you in, but I'm just going to let you lead now, right?
Okay.
And tell us a little bit. Introduce yourself
Yeah.
maybe a little bit first.
So, Ray Power from Waterford City. As Baz said there, I'm from a large housing estate in Waterford City um, that we grew up. It was challenging at times. You had to stand up for yourself around that and try and create, you know, a name for yourself. And that came with a lot of fighting. So, from a very young age, I would have been a fighter, a brawler, and I brought that on with me then
Yeah,
through my life. Um, moved on then in later years, then I ended up going into the door world.
yeah,
I was running nightclubs and security. And at the time then I had a young family. Um, this was all new for them as well, because I was
yeah,
going into the door world. I was going into a whole new world, which had detrimental effects on my relationship with the mother of my children.
yeah,
Um, something I really regret because I became addicted to the door world and that image.
yeah. That
The
that hard man
yeah,
persona.
that macho thing. Because throughout my school, I never really had a great education in school, so I struggled. But when I stepped into the door world, I had people telling me how wonderful and brilliant I
Mm.
was, and that built that macho thing. And let me tell you, when you get an image like that, it feeds something inside you, and you don't want to let that go. But
No,
that's
no.
the very thing that can destroy you.
It's yeah. It's an egotistical thing,
That's
and
exactly, yeah.
yeah. I
Uh,
I won't lie to you. Not that fully same, but like we've come out of Willow Park there now,
mhm.
and I'm not saying it was a rough housing estate, but like that there was a chance you probably boxed someone every day. Do you
Every
know
day,
that way?
every
So,
day, yeah.
and then I joined boxing. I was a narrow, skinny lad, so I joined boxing when I was 8, I think. Daddy sent me down. My older brother was in it.
hmm
And I remember the kids in our street sitting on the wall in our front garden watching me and the brother sparring. He was 5 years older than me, and
Yeah, yeah.
we'd fucking kill each other,
hmm
like, do you know that way?
hmm
But fighting became second nature, do you
Yeah,
know that way? And
that's it.
like that, I was happy with that because I got a free run in secondary school because of it. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean? And no
yeah.
one went near you because you were the boxer. Do you know that way?
Exactly, yeah.
But it's egotistical.
It,
It
it,
does
it,
feel
it,
something.
it is, to be able to look back at that now and identify that contributed to a lot of things then in my life,
Yeah.
because, as I say, having that image comes with consequences.
Mm.
So I went further into that and took on more security roles, more things, and what that created, and I was out of the family home more, and I had 5 kids at the time,
Fuck.
and I had very, very young twin daughters that we were trying to, I was trying to support as well. I had this thing in my head, but now I have 5 daughters, so now I have to work harder,
Yeah.
and that came with its challenges. But I remember doing security one night, and I never really suffered from my mental health. I had a rough childhood, but
Mm.
I got on, and I was a very good supportive father to my partner at the time and my children. Worked hard, make sure they had everything that they
Mm.
needed. A very good partner. But then I became very, I suppose, abusive in that, as around my words. And, it was nearly like at home I was a doormat.
Mm.
I had this thing,
Control thing.
a control, yeah. But really, what I was doing, I was burning myself out around
Mm.
that. I wouldn't even come home and tell my partner at the time about the bad night we had. Like there was times on the doors we had some serious moments.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
had a
yeah.
shotgun and everything appointed to me, but I wouldn't bring that home and say, "Listen, do you know what happened to me last night?" Because then she would encourage me, Ray, give this up. You know, there was times she used to say to me, I wish we could go back like to the basic, little simple little jobs, you know, around that where we had to save for things. But the door world came with a lot of money,
Yeah, good money in it.
good
Yeah.
money, you know. But it was challenging, you know. And where we were doing security was in Tramore, so we had a lot of people coming from all over the country in the summer.
Yeah.
So every night I went on the door from 8 o'clock up to 2 a.m. I was fighting.
Yeah.
You know, I knew nothing about it. But then what happened, my mental health started affecting. I remember one day I was going in to do a little bit of a talk around with security guards, and I thought I was having a heart attack. My hands started sweating, my body started shaking, they started palpitating. I thought it was a heart attack, and I'd done a walk around the premises, and I didn't know what was going on there. It was a new experience for me. But what happened was a heart attack. Oh, sorry, a panic attack. A panic attack. And I remember going to the doctor saying, you know, check my heart and explain to what went on, and it was a panic attack. So then I went in, I started getting medication, which that was new for me as well. But in a very short period of time, my mental health just deteriorated. Really, really got out of control. So I was on more medication.
Yeah.
And you know, around antidepressants and stuff like that, it's not like they can take a blood test and say this one will work.
No, it's trial and error.
Trial and error. So unfortunately,
I'm cutting you there,
Yeah,
but
of course.
just back to your panic attack. So,
Yep.
my wife, I probably don't help it, but she suffered some anxiety. But I never did, thank God. I
Yeah.
was never aware of it. And
Yeah.
and I have only ever experienced one panic attack in my life, and believe it or not, it was the day of my biggest fight. I was fighting Alan Babbage in Milton Keynes Stadium, and I had a panic attack on the way to the ring. Looking back, there was loads of ingredients that led to it that week. I forgot my medication. Like I said, I'm bipolar, so I'd forgot my medication, which made me doubt loads of things in my head. I was starting to have that interior battle that I wasn't winning.
Yeah.
And then, things just skyrocketed. But I never forget walking to the ring. My biggest fear, not getting knocked out with heavyweight boxing, my biggest fear was falling through the ropes.
Yeah.
I wish I had fell through the ropes. Now I'd still be unbeaten. Do you know what I mean? But, so panic attack. It's a horrible experience.
They are, and you know, it was something I never experienced. You know, I was 33 at that stage. You know, I had everything going for me, like all the security stuff that I was running. I could have turned it into a very successful business. You know, at the time, but I didn't have the headspace around that. I was just taking on stuff, and so my relationship kind of broke down. And what happened to me then around that was I formed a huge. I suppose I formed a huge addiction then around my own antidepressants.
Yeah.
So I would have been given a lot of like Valium and stuff like that. So whatever I was prescribed, and I was doubling up because I had this thing in my mind, you know, because I was really trying to get back to the old Ray.
Yeah.
That my partner and my kids knew at the time.
Yeah.
So I was trying to get back to that. So I had this notion, right, if I start taking more, I'll feel better. But I created a huge addiction around my own antidepressants. And I also, I think it's well to point out as that, you know, antidepressants do work for people, and I don't want to scare anyone in them.
Yeah.
I abused them.
Yeah.
So that's, I done the damage around that. So then what I was doing then, I was buying them on the street.
Right.
You know, buying Valium on the street when I couldn't get it off the doctor. Well, because when the doctor was giving it to me, I was taking more than what I should.
Yeah.
Then I run out, I was buying them on the street. There was times I went down onto the doors doing the security. Started at 8 o'clock, and by 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, I was out of my mind on like just constantly taking the Valium. And when you take a lot of them, then you're nearly looking for a fight.
Yeah.
You know, you're looking for a brawl, you're looking for that, you know, and that kind of fed that world as well. But I was able to hide within the security world with that anger that was going on inside of me. Really what was happening was I was screaming. There was a change going on in my life that I just didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
And I was hurting, but I was willing to hurt other people just to make me feel a little bit better around that. As I said, the relationship broke down, and I found myself, you know, sometimes walking the streets, in and out of people's houses, trying to sleep on a chair. Finally made it back a little bit. We started renting my own house, and then my partner at the time, ex-partner of the mother of my children, was moving on, which she's entitled to do. You know, like I was a mess, and met up with a guy, and I assaulted that guy. And that was fueled, and I'm always very honest about my recovery because I think I
You
have to
have,
be for
yeah, you
people to
have to, yeah.
learn. That was fueled by not only pure jealousy, because I knew that I was a good father, I was a good provider, but then I got lost in the world, and I was scared that some man could come on and do a
Take
better
over that
job than
role.
I do.
Yeah.
And that was the chances I could have.
And I'm going to say this to you that that alter ego that we have, that macho ego,
Yeah.
we feel like that's all we know is fight or flight.
Mhm.
And that's natural, that's in every human,
Yeah.
but that's all we knew. So, well, you were in that
Mhm.
situation, and that's your reaction to things.
Yeah.
That's what you've done for the past previous 10 years or whatever.
Yeah.
And so it's not acceptable, but it's understandable from where we were. Do you know what
Yeah.
I mean? And the fact that you own it. But I
Yeah.
remember talking to a counsellor one time. Wasn't in counselling because counselling has actually never worked for me, right?
Okay.
I've never. I'm not saying I never clicked with anyone. It's just I found different ways of making myself better than that, like so through fitness and stuff like
Mhm.
that. But um, I was talking to this person and we were talking about a situation unbelievably similar to your own, right?
Okay.
Different but similar. And the counsellor turned around to me and he said, Basil, if that person was cutting their wrist, what would you call it? He said, self harming. That's exactly what they're doing. So what you were actually doing to yourself is it was self sabotage. It was self
Yeah.
harming.
Yeah. 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 It really was, and 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 then you have a conflict going on in your body because then you're fighting. You're going, I need to get back to the man I was and get back to the caring father I
Yeah.
was and look after my children, create moments around that. But yet I'm going to chase the chaos as well, and that became difficult. But it's strange, and I suppose anyone in addiction will tell you this, what I experienced, so I can probably only speak for myself. When I got high, that's when the good thoughts come. Geez, I need to straighten myself out. I need to go back home to my family. I need to go home to the mother and my children, and you know, create that thing that we had for the last 20
Yeah.
years. Yeah, I do that. But then when you come down off of that, then and you forget all about that, and you're chasing
You're
that
trying to
high
chase that feeling again.
feeling again. So there's a bit of a conflict. But around the assault, then I found myself then, before the courts, and I got a prison sentence. I got a 4-year prison sentence for the assault, and at the age of 43. I got 2 years suspended, so I ended up doing 2 years. At that age in my life, going into prison was daunting. I was after
Scary, yeah.
it was. I was after escaping a lot of things in my life where I could have went to prison for, but I didn't. And
Yeah.
I had a great career in security. Right, my mental health was affected. I lost all my family and stuff.
Yeah.
I went into that world. It was huge, but I'm also grateful for it
Mm.
because the minute I walked in there, I was forced into a detox because I couldn't get my hands on what I was
Tablets,
getting.
yeah.
I ended up actually being rushed out to the hospital twice within that because I couldn't pass urine because the medication was causing a thing called retention.
Mm.
So it was amazing. I was on that medication for about 10 years, but when I was in the worst place in my life in prison, it was like, I don't know if you want to call it godly, we have you in here, but now we're going to straighten you out. So I gave 3 months on a serious detox coming off the medication. I'll never forget hallucinating, climbing the walls, sweating. And then a beautiful thing started happening through that, whereas I was starting to feel a little bit normal in the worst place I could possibly be in my life. So what it created for me was, prison created for me, forced me into a detox that I would have never been able to do outside.
Yeah.
I would have never been able to manage that, and it would have killed me.
Yeah.
Took me out of the eyes of the world, and made me look. It created a way for me to take an honest look at the role that I was actually playing in my own suffering.
Yeah.
As regards the door work, taking on an awful lot of that work, because I wouldn't talk about my mental health.
Mm.
So, I wouldn't. The only thing I do at the time, it nearly suited me. Went to the psychiatrist, tell me, I had a bad day, write out a different prescription, gone.
Out the gap.
But never actually sat down with someone and said to him, listen, I'm struggling here. I did find that difficult because there's times if someone said to me, how are you feeling? I actually didn't know how I felt.
Mm.
And I was
To
going,
answer that question.
yeah. There would have been times that I would have found it difficult to say actually how I feel, because I really didn't know myself, but I knew there was a huge change, and the Ray that was before is gone. And I thought he'd never come back.
Yeah.
But in prison, I could feel that Ray coming back a little bit. And I started having a new emotion that I never had, which was tears.
Right.
I was starting to cry. I was in the cell and I was starting to cry, and I was starting to look at the hurt that I caused people
Mm.
and the damage that I'd done to people, and pushed away an awful lot of people throughout all of that, friends, family, left them all down,
Yeah.
But it made me look at that. And I remember crying and going, where did this come out of it? And I actually needed it, because I was raw,
Mm.
Now, whether that be from the medication, the door world, or whatever that'd be, like there's times I was so depressed when I was doing the doors, but when I stood on that door, I became a different person. I
Yeah.
was full of confidence. I was able to shield it,
Yeah, I know.
But prison really gave me that opportunity to look at the role. And then for the first time in my life, I really felt what it was like to miss my children. Really missed them.
Proper emotion.
Proper, yeah, to really miss them. And that all kind of happened very early on in the prison in my prison sentence. And I was medication free for the first time in 10 years, which was astonishing, and I seen all these changes. And so I went through my prison sentence. Now, I was lucky enough that I ended up on a good landing where there was men in there that were settled within their prison. Some of them were lifers, so they were kind of settled within it. So it was a peaceful environment. And I had friends and family reaching out to me and telling me, and wishing me luck, and I had a load of hopes and dreams for the future of getting out, plans and how life is going to be now, because I'm free. I really felt that I was free from mental health.
Yeah.
And I was definitely free from addiction.
Yeah.
So I went through my sentence. Really, it was challenging, like to be away from everyone. So about 3-4 weeks before my release, I started getting a little anxiety back. Just a little bit of a feeling coming
back to the real world.
Yeah, and what that was, and I can identify that now, was it's like the old Ray was coming back, preparing me to get out on the outside, because I knew I've left. At the time, I was 18 stone. I went down to 13 stone in prison, so I went back to my natural weight. I was doing a lot of training before I went to prison in the gyms, trying to look good on the door, at the image. As you can see, look, I'm covered in a lot of tattoos.
Well, don't worry about that. I'm like a colour book as well. So.
And that's an image I had on the doors, and but I knew I was coming out. I was softer. The fighter was gone in me, because now I know the consequences of hurting people. That you will go to prison, and be taken away from your family, and not only you hurting a person, physically assaulting them, but you're also hurting your children and yourself. So came out very, very vulnerable, but I welcomed that as well. So a lot of little challenges when you come out of prison. Like, obviously the security world was gone, which I was delighted. It wasn't something I ever wanted to go back into, because it would have created old habits. But the phone call still came asking me to go back, because people thought I was the same guy. I was the same guy that went in that came out. I would have got an awful lot of work through security, because I had a good image and I was a good brawler. But I knew that was gone, so I found that very challenging. Even getting the phone calls around that, I used to find triggering. So I didn't want to that. But amazing thing happened then throughout all of that. I was contacted by a group in Waterford, Reassure. They're a suicide intervention team. And they patrol the quays, we say, at 10 o'clock at night, 2 o'clock in the morning, and they're, I suppose, the danger hours within that, around that, and asked me to join. Now, there was a couple of things in that. Here I had someone reaching out to me after I'd done my prison sentence, after I treated so many people wrong for so many years, and believed in me. It was huge. It was huge for me. And also, I had this message of, it doesn't matter what happens in your life as regards mental health, prison, addiction, you can overcome it. And I wanted to share my story to other people, that it is achievable.
It's a massive story of hope, and
it is. And there was times through my mental illness, like I I did take a couple of attempts on my life,
Yeah.
you know, and thankfully I'm still here to be around with my children. But going into that volunteer, I done an awful lot of work around mental health. Like nearly 95% of my story was going to help someone else,
Okay.
you know. So I just needed to educate myself around that. So over the last 3 years, I'm on a journey of learning a lot more about mental health, which in turn is helping me
Yeah.
as well understand what happened to me. And now I'm the chairperson of that organization.
That's massive.
I'm running that organization. I do a lot of work in around Waterford City as regards mental health. I have people approaching me now saying, will you have a chat with my son, which I love to do.
Yeah.
As opposed to before, people would run away from me, they feared me. But now they look at me and go, I want a bit of what Ray has. And a lot of these people that are coming over to me have mental health issues, have addiction, but are looking at me and going, if he can do it, I can do it.
You're giving hope to people.
Yeah.
I just want to say to you as
Yeah.
well that so I've never met you before.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm so grateful
Yeah.
that you came up and or Sarah contacted
Yeah.
me. So Ray has been put in contact with me through a mutual friend. But like, so for two people on the podcast or anybody looking at this, we have one man, a former prisoner,
Yep.
and another man a guard, right?
Yep.
I want you to know something. Our stories are fucking next to identical, but I'm so lucky that I got to the line, and thank God it didn't go over. Do you know what I mean? But similarly to, like, I'm extremely lucky. I'm married now with an unbelievably supportive and understanding wife, and I actually plan to have my wife on this as well, because I'm not sure if you've ever seen it. There's a YouTube video, living with the black dog, or the black dog,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then there's one living with the black dog.
Yeah.
So that's not easy, right?
No,
and my wife is, so I'm bipolar.
Yeah.
I'm on medication. I'll be on medication for the rest of my life.
Mhm.
I'm on it 14 years.
Okay.
But what I would say to it is that it's like if you'd asked me and you took an inhaler every morning, what harm? Do you know what I mean? If it makes you feel better. So.
Absolutely.
And but down to that, fitness has always been, like I said, the counselling is brilliant, and loads of people use it. I just honestly, I'm probably down to that macho thing maybe, right?
Yeah.
I've just never worked. I never felt comfortable at it. I never, like, even down to, I went to sports psychologist when boxing was going really well, and I fucking went in real resentful, thinking I'm giving this fucker €150 and
Yeah.
he's talking scutter to me, like, you
Yeah,
know, that
yeah.
way. So it just didn't make sense to
Mhm.
me. But I'm lucky with Neve. She manages, and I remember one of the most daunting things was when we started. You know the way things are deadly at the start of any relationship.
Yeah.
Fucking head over heels about each other, fancy the pants off each other. Fairly sure she doesn't anymore. My nose has changed direction a couple of times, right? But I remember saying to her, things are going really well, and I said to her, I pulled her aside and I just said, listen, this is all amazing, but I need you to understand I'm bipolar, and that things are deadly today. Things won't be deadly every day. And I'm conscious that I have to manage my illness, and not an illness, but it's just part of me, right? So it's something I can live with. And I said that to her, and she said, oh, it's just grand. And I said, no, Neve, do me a favour. I said, go and talk to your family and your friends, because this isn't, it's a big undertaking.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm really lucky that she weighed it up and she decided to stick with me. But I think as we grow, and we maybe probably, and this is why I would say to any young listeners or viewers or whatever way you're listening to this, things that when you're young are extremely hard, because 9 times out of 10 it's a first time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So learned experience is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying, I know for a fact if you got the chance to reverse, your learned experiences will be completely different.
Mm-hmm.
But all those tragic things that happened and all that trauma that happened to you, I know, and me,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of it caused by you and
Yeah,
me,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
That's learned experience.
yeah.
And I firmly believe, like, I'm going to let you back talk now, but I firmly believe that God has us all here on a path, on a mission, or
Mm.
whatever you believe in, whether it's God, faith, whatever. The world has us here for a reason.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So, if your reason and my reason is to be colossal fuck ups, but to be able to tell the story and help someone, I think that's unbelievable. Like.
Yeah. Look, I remember like going through my door world and suppose going into the courts and stuff, even in prison. You build, and then from being from Ballybeg, you have this thing where, you know, you don't speak about that and go really quiet, you know. And a lot of guys out there that have a past and are in a good place today, they don't want to talk about that. But I always encourage this, you know, open up about it. You know, even going into employers or anything like that and say, look, I have a criminal record, and the truth in that's not, you know, you're being authentic. The employer hear that and say, geez, well, this guy
It's honest.
he's honest, he's after disclosing that he has a criminal record, and he's trying to get his life back, and he's trying to get out there and just be normal. For me, sharing my story, it's healing that part of me as well.
Yeah.
And I'll always have to heal that, because
Yeah.
I'm regretful of my past. Like, I'm very regretful of the way I was around my partner and my children. And they were the people that I loved the most in the world.
Yeah.
And if anyone else hurt them at the time, I would have hurt them.
Yeah.
You know, and here I was doing it.
Yeah.
And it's very, I suppose, when you're going through mental health issues like we have, you know, and we have partners and kids, it's very, very important that we open up to them, even if we don't know how we feel, but tell them how we're feeling, because we're living with this in our life. But they're the people that chose, like, our partners are the people that chose us for who we are,
Yeah.
and loves us, and probably wouldn't change anything about us. But we think, oh, if I disclose that to her, she might get a hard time. But it's very, very important that we open up to our loved ones, especially our partner and the mother of our children, as I said, because she chose
You.
us,
Yeah.
me and you, and that's huge.
And what I would say to you, and I know, like, you're completely honest, and that's why I think this is going to be so powerful for everyone. But like that, I don't want you to feel like that you're on your own in it. I had a lovely girlfriend, went out with the girl for about 6 years. But oh fuck, talk about regret. But the only thing I can say is that I need to fix and make sure I don't do that to any other human. Do you know what I mean? And
that's it. And
I can't change that, unfortunately.
no, but we have lessons learned.
Yeah.
And now we know, when, you know, if we go into a new relationship or anything like that, we know, like, well, that's the way I done it wrong and it didn't serve me well, so change that. So we're constantly learning all the time, you know. And I think sometimes we destroy a beautiful thing, you know, by the way we feel or the way we think.
Self-harming again.
Yeah. Like, I remember the mother of my children at the time saying to me, when I was going through my worst part of it, and there was times she tried to get me to sit down and calm down, and she said to me, she said something to me back then, and it really resonates with me now. She said, Ray, it's like you died, but you're still walking around, do you know? And I remember when she said that, I didn't think twice about it. I remember her saying it, but now that really resonates with me, you know. So what I get that out of that, I became a person that she didn't even recognize. You know, we're in a relationship for 20 years and had 5 beautiful children together. And that must have been really scary for her. Do you know? And to see, you know, is she going to get a knock on the door some night and say, Ray is gone? You know, and how am I going to break that to the children? And another thing as well that we forget when we're going through all of this, especially addiction and mental health, and we're running riot. The women in our life, even though they're going through a bad time and their partner is out of control, they still have to hold it together and pay all them bills.
Yeah.
They still have to get the kids out to school in the morning.
They're playing mommy and daddy.
They're doing it. So the women in our lives are the most strongest human beings on this
Yeah.
planet, and they don't get enough credit for that. The mother of my children, I think she's an amazing woman.
Yeah.
I really, really do. For all that she put up with me going through my addiction and going into prison and all that, I think she's absolutely amazing. She's the most strongest person, human being that I know on this planet. I thought I was strong, covered in tattoos on the door,
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. She's much stronger than I ever will be.
Yeah.
So I give her credit for that. She's done an amazing job.
Yeah. And look,
Yeah.
and likewise, I'm going to say I'm fucking steeped.
Yeah.
Like I said, my wife manages my bipolar way better than I do.
Yeah,
She'll
that's
know.
it. That's it. Yeah.
She'll notice when I'm in a dip. I don't. And she'll say to me, "Pull your head out of your hole. You need to go for a run or go to the gym."
Yeah.
And I had that with boxing 2 years ago.
Yeah.
When Nick got whipped from in under me, and like, well, come here, I'm going to say this as well. It's probably that ego part of me too. Oh, there's the pro boxer. Gory's the first ever pro boxer.
Yeah. Yeah.
I probably lived for that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And now that was whipped, and I think we sort of struggle with our identity a massive amount. And
we do, and I'm 4.5 years in recovery now, and I'm still on a journey of self-discovery.
Yeah.
I'm still on that journey, but my journey now is to give back, and I've a huge interest in as regards men. Like I support anyone with mental health, but men, to show them, like, you can turn your life around
completely. Yeah.
You can turn it around completely and change that horrible thing that you're going through your life. But take inspiration from your partner and your children and all that kind of stuff. And around drugs and anything like that, like, there's no happiness in drugs. There's happiness in spending time with your family.
Yeah.
Going for a walk like this in the forest here. There's only misery in drugs addiction, and it'll never bring you this kind of peace that you would get with your loved one or your children.
Yeah, and I think, and come here, look, we can smell it as we're driving through. There's a happy young people in here, unfortunately.
Yeah.
They haven't learned that lesson yet, but they will. Let's see, how are you?
Hiya.
See these two young people. These are two that we need to keep an eye on. No, they're not. They're two good young athletes and so.
Yeah.
But what I would say is that learned experience will eventually. You just have to hope that they get to it before it's too late.
Yeah.
Because it can control you, and it's that false high. You can let me know if this is how you do it, but an unbelievably fine, really attractive man, not going to name him, God rest him, he's passed away, right? And I remember I worked in pubs since I was 12, right? And I was barring him out of a pub. I was about 18 at the time. This is a big fine man, and I remember saying to him that I love him. He was caught up in heroin addiction, and he had goofed off in the chair, and his works had fell out of his pocket, and I couldn't have that, right? So I was barring him out of the pub, and he came in the following day. So I sat up with him, lovely fella, and I said to him, "Listen, I'm going to have to bar you. I'm so sorry, but this happened." He's there, "Oh no, Basil, look, I don't blame you. I'm so sorry. I didn't even know that happened." He said, "I'm so sorry. So apologetic." This was genuinely walked the whole way through his addiction. Never committed crime, well, that I was aware of. From a really good family. And I remember saying to him, "Can you tell me why?" Right? And he just turned around to me and said, "Basil," he said, "the very first time I took this thing, it was like utopia." He says, "or what I believe utopia will be." He said, "I got this unbelievable high." He said, "That lasted for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And he said, all I could think about was trying to get back there. I've never got back there."
Yeah.
Do you know, and he lost his life as a result of it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's really sad, I think. Do you know, but, and I'm blessed. Like, I would have been a teenage alcoholic, and I still have a few drinks, but like that, I'm really lucky with Niamh. She manages me very well. But I'm lucky I didn't fall down that road.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But I'm very aware that I have an extremely addictive personality that when I copped on to myself when I met my wife, I got back boxing really well. I
Yeah.
was number 2 in Ireland on the Olympic team. I was representing Ireland. I got that back, and then I turned pro. She supported me fully through that.
Hmm.
But like that, I was addicted to training. Then, do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
And
yeah.
then when that went, I had to follow something, find something, and I didn't. So I went back drinking really heavy,
Hmm.
and eventually, then she pulled me out of that, and I set up MBK. Do you know what I mean? And
Okay.
similar to you, we're
Yeah,
on a path. We're on a path of discovery, but we're on a path, hopefully, that will help people. And
yeah,
I think honesty is
yeah.
unbelievable. Like.
You have to, and there's power in it as well, you know, because sometimes I remember the early days when I was starting to talk
Hiya, James.
when I came out of prison. I was frightened of people casting judgment on it. So by me opening up, I took that power and also help people along the road,
Yeah,
and it's very important. It's rewarding, me being so open about my lived experience, because
yeah.
it might stop someone else going through that. When I see lads struggling with addiction and mental health, I,
Hiya,
hello, how
James.
are you?
Just everyone, this is my good friend James. He's out training, so we're not going to hold him up. See you later, buddy.
See you later. Take care. So when I see them,
See you later, James.
I more than probably anyone after coming out of that darkness, I look at them and I go, I feel that pain and
Yeah.
I feel that hurt, and it's not nice, And a lot of it sometimes as well for me is would have been childhood trauma maybe that I wouldn't have dealt with as I
You
went
didn't
on.
touch on it,
Yeah,
no.
yeah,
Yeah, and I know you
yeah,
have a massive story here.
yeah. I do, like, I have a lot of childhood trauma. Like, I was in a hit and run accident, and the driver drove off, and I was in hospital for a long time, around that. Lost an awful lot of school, so as I spoke earlier in your podcast,
Yeah,
Baz, was that I always felt worthless in school, and I was always told I was worthless. And when I went into the door world, I was amazing,
yeah.
so like we talk about addictive personalities and stuff that make us feel good. The boxing and the
Mm,
training was great for you. The door world for me was that,
yeah,
and that was all around childhood trauma. But when I look at a guy, or I'm doing an intervention or sitting with him and doing a talk, um, I try peel it back and go back to his childhood,
yeah,
because I do feel sometimes, especially in men, a lot of the stuff that we go through as children, we're very strong as children because we can hold that in. We get distracted by life. We run
yeah.
around, play with our friends, all that kind of stuff. But as we get older, that comes to the surface, and that needs to be dealt with in any way. Like opening up, talking about your childhood trauma. I did it when I came out of prison, because I remember people saying to me, "Talk to someone." I was going, "What's that going to do when you're in depression?"
Mm,
But it actually did help me. But I had to get rid of a lot of childhood trauma and then move on with Ray. So that's what I do with a lot of guys that I meet on the level of,
peel it back
peel it
completely.
right back. And there's times, I sit with guys and they cry, and I cry with them.
Mm,
I then try and bring out the laughter, because they're two very
yeah,
important emotions. Um, Men sometimes, even for me, I remember there was times when I would have felt that if I was in a conversation with someone, a deep one, and I felt that, oh geez, I could cry, I'd rather hit him first,
yeah,
because that was the macho thing to
yeah.
do, um, trying to disguise that. But it's very important to open up and just reveal everything that is giving you hassle around childhood trauma.
Yeah. But what I will say,
Yeah,
and sorry for
yeah,
putting
of
there,
course.
but that's fucking hard.
It's the most difficult thing you
Yeah,
will ever do,
loads of
because
too,
yeah, it's the most difficult thing you do, because
you're vulnerable.
yeah, like I would have had a lot of things that I saw in my family home and things that I wasn't happy with, but I still adore and love my mother and father.
Mm,
I still think the world of them,
yeah,
and then sometimes that little negative voice in your head is saying, well, you're running down your mom, or you're running down your
yeah,
dad, I also know that I as a parent didn't get it right either.
yeah.
My mother and
Made
father
mistake.
didn't get it right either,
No.
and I was only talking in a conversation about this. We point our fingers maybe at our parents. They obviously didn't do this before,
Yeah.
and
So
I wasn't there.
everyone's first run at this,
Yeah,
and times have changed.
they have, and there's a lot more pressure under men now as well. Like, they have a lot of you know, social media, everything. Not everyone is talking, but you know, I really think everyone should find, when you're going through all that, find what really works for you. You
Mm,
know, like I do a lot of hiking and stuff like that now at the moment.
brilliant.
I would love to go back. I used to do a little bit around boxing, but it bring me back into a world that I didn't want.
Yeah, it
You
might be.
know,
It might be an attachment that you don't need.
yeah. Even like lifting weights would bring me back into a world that
Mm,
I'm trying to escape for. So hiking for me is a time to be on my own. Like as you said here, we're walking around. You see
yeah,
that piece?
yeah,
That's what I chase now. You know, and helping lads along the way.
yeah. And look, and even down to the, I love this. This is probably my favorite place in
Yeah,
Galway. Right, I
yeah,
love it. And I would have before they put the trails in and all. We just spent fucking hours in here as
yeah,
kids. Like, you
yeah,
know what I mean? But I I find fitness. So I can't box now.
yeah.
I wish I could. I'm still appealing decisions to try
Okay,
and get there,
okay.
but
Yeah,
maybe I'm holding on to that thing that I need to let go of as well.
yeah, yeah.
And I'm conscious of that, but um, I've got myself involved in training kids, which is massive for
Yeah.
me. And like you've seen the young lads on the way in, it was lovely to see the
Yeah,
kids. Like,
yeah, yeah. They look up to you.
um,
They look up to
what they
you. Yeah,
do,
yeah,
yeah, but they're looking up to someone that has made mistakes that I regret forever.
of
And
course.
I think both of us are equal in that.
Yeah.
Hey,
Aye.
but fitness to me, whether it's a walk, a run, this actually, do you know something? I don't know if I've ever walked this.
Okay.
I've ran it 1,000 times and I've walked the shorter loop with the little
Yeah,
lad.
yeah.
But I don't know if I've ever walked it, and it's unbelievably
Mhm,
peaceful. But
mhm.
I think it's finding that thing, and I just hope that your story, my story, any of the guests that I've had on, their story resonates with someone before they've had to go through the trauma.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? If we
yeah,
can stop it at
yeah,
the start,
yeah.
like the really sad thing about life is we're all going to lose people we love.
Of course,
We're all going to hurt people we love.
of course.
Do you know what I mean? And it's trying, like we're with you and me, we're standing here now, and we're both on a path of, we're on a massive big fucking wood trail at the minute, but we're
Yeah,
both on a path. You can't see the end of that, and we don't know where ours is. Do
yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
And we're
That's it.
both on a path
Yeah,
of self discovery,
yeah,
even. But I do honestly believe that fitness for me, and when I say fitness, it doesn't mean it has to be a run. It can be a walk. It
yeah,
can be lifting weights. It can be
yeah,
anything. I just find that it does this positive thing to me, like, and I'm, like I said, I'm conscious that I wake up some mornings and, like, I remember at my worst with the depression that I was either drunk,
yeah,
in work, at home, with the fucking curtains pulled and the blinds down,
yeah,
because I didn't want to see the world.
yeah.
Or else, I remember when I moved back home after losing my best friend, Colin Bulger, when I was 19. I moved out when I was 17
Yeah.
and rented a house and worked. I've worked, like I said, I worked in pubs on it, and rented a house with a couple of friends. Then my mate died by suicide. No point in covering it up,
Yeah.
but so that I felt that was my road. It was only a matter of time before I got there, and then I would go back to Colin. Do you know that way?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I found myself in the house that I got very frustrated with people.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to be there. So then I never forget walking with my mother, going to look at a 1 bedroom bedsit on the avenue in Gorey, and thinking, oh fuck, is this where my life has brought me?
Yeah.
So my ma begged me would I come home. I came home. My father is a monster, a massive big man.
Okay.
And I remember waking up one. I would have been fond of a pint, but he only has a drink at home now. He doesn't go out or anything, right? But I remember waking up one night. I came in from work. I was still working in the pub, and my father was asleep on the bottom of my bed. I was there, what the? So I woke him. I said, "You alright? You in the horrors? Like, what are you doing in my bed?" My father had tears in his eyes, and he said to me, "Niall, you don't realise that either me or your mother are sitting in your room and you come in at night because we're afraid of our life, you're going to take our life." So that was horrifying. Hey,
Yeah.
how are
Hey,
you?
hey.
But I was 19 then. It still took 5-6 years before I was ready to face me demons. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
So it's like I don't know. I don't know. I sort of got lost in what I'm trying to say to anyone looking, but I just think, and look, I'm a child of God. I
Yeah.
have a massive faith,
Yeah.
but my faith and your faith don't have to be the same. Do you know what I mean?
No.
I remember talking to, so when I was signed to boxing, I was signed to Dropkick Murphys, the Murphys boxing, right? And I remember talking to a driver, and he was bringing me down to a weigh-in for me biggest win actually, New England title fight. And we're driving down, having a lovely conversation. I have these fucking deep, meaning conversations with people,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But
It's important.
we're driving down, and at this stage, I'm good. Like, you know, I'm married. Everything is good, and I'm back on the road to where I want to be. But we're driving down, and I said to him, we're talking about faith, and he said that he was Catholic. He's Irish American, so he was Catholic and had a strong faith, but fell into addiction, found himself falling away from faith. And hiya, how are you? And I remember saying to him, but listen, Larry, I said, if you believed in that, we were boxing in Connecticut, right? So it's a Native American area, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And we drove into this big filling station to get water. I was on the way to the weigh-in, and there was this big falcon out of timber carved out, and there was no parking spaces, right? And we're after having this conversation for 10 or 15 minutes, and no car parking space. Next thing, this big white fucking SUV pulled out, right? Reversed out. I hit my box in the arm and said, "Do you see the reg plate of that?" He says, "Huh?" I said, "Do you see the reg plate of that?" And he says, "No." The reg plate was SCRD, Sacred HRT. I never forget
Oh,
it, right?
God.
And I just said to him, I said, "Look, if you believed in a pigeon and it made you happy, I'd be grand." And my whole thing about faith is it's not believing in God, it's believing in yourself.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's a massive thing, I think.
Yeah. You know, I always say this as well, you know, like I have my faith as well. You know, there was times when I was in prison, I was down on my knees crying and
Yeah.
praying and hoping, you know, when I get out and move on in life, that things will be better. You
Yeah.
know, it's something that I have, but I also know that we we can create a heaven or a hell on earth,
Right.
and that's the choice we have. Um, Sometimes when we're down on our luck and in our addiction or our mental health, unbeknownst to us, we feed that and we just create a load of noise around it. There's times I self sabotage it because
Yeah.
I had a plan, you know, that I'm gonna step out of this world. You know, I'm gonna take my life, and I never, you know, we spoke about this before we done
Yeah.
the podcast. You know that you've been nearly trying to make things work worse to get yourself
Yeah,
there.
to
You
get
know,
it, yeah.
and
Because you believe that's your end.
you do, and you
Yeah.
want a full stop under that decision.
Yeah,
And that's a dark place to be.
it is.
You know, if I look back on that now and I look at the journey I'm on now and how wonderful life is after coming, because I took control of all of that. And the path I'm on now, I'm far away from that. And the memories I'm after making since I left prison with my daughters and my family
Yeah.
is absolutely phenomenal. So they would have missed out on all of that. I would have missed out on all of that. And then what we don't understand too as well when we're going through our mental illness, the people that, like you were saying, your mum and dad were on the
Yeah.
bed crying, you know, and I remember when I went into prison, my mum and dad cried, you know, and that's something I have to live with for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And there were times they didn't know, was I going to be alive? They were going to get a call, and that's scary for them, and in turn affects other people's mental health as well, you know. So it's so important for us, you know, as you said, if you find something that is bringing you joy, whether it be religion, hiking, boxing or training, just find that thing that takes you out of that world and gives you that lovely feeling, because that's what we're really technically chasing.
Yeah.
When we're going through our addiction and our mental health, we're chasing something to make us feel nice again and relaxed.
Yeah.
It's there, but just stop creating chaos as well around it.
Yeah, and you can get addicted to chaos.
You
as
can,
well, yeah.
you can, you can,
And that's a fact, and
you
I
can,
found that myself in
you
my
can.
own life. But what I would also say is that, like, your trauma is massive, right?
Yeah.
And I know the full story. So Ray has a good few podcasts out there where he spoke. What's the one I looked at?
The one I done, it's an hour and a half with the Long Way Back podcast.
Phenomenal, and I advise everyone to have a look at it.
Mhm.
It's unbelievable. But like, I firmly believe that this is your path, like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do too. I do too.
And we all, like, your trauma and my trauma, while it's different, they're similar. And while we, like, everybody has trauma, everybody has childhood trauma. And
Yeah.
I do a thing in the workshops where I get a little piece of paper and I have life written on it, and I give it out to everyone, and I get them to crumple it up. And I say to them, right, there's a prize if you can get that back perfect, but she can never get it back perfect,
No.
right? That's the very same as all of our lives. We've all had that trauma, whether that trauma is the abuse in the house,
Yeah.
right? Whether that trauma is a single household, whether that trauma is not getting picked for a hurling and football team.
Yeah, that's
Whether
it.
that, you know what I mean?
That's
That
it.
trauma can be fucking
Yeah.
different for
Yeah.
everybody, but we all carry it.
Yeah.
And what I think is really scary now is, like, this is open, this is fucking harsh as raw, and I won't edit this because that's just,
Yeah.
I'm a lazy bastard, right? But I like it, just not. I like it raw, and I think the honesty is true and is real. But I think what we're massively lacking now, and what young people, I'm very lucky we've passed a lot of young people
Yeah.
here that I know really
Yeah.
well, and they're all great kids. But what young people have sort of lost is that kindness piece, right?
Mm-hmm.
And social media has taken that away from a lot of people.
It has.
Right? And it's giving people voices and fucking
Mm-hmm.
opinions that they don't deserve. Do you know what I mean? So
No.
what I would say to everybody, or anybody, or whoever listens to this, or if it's just me looking back at it to remind myself, is that remembering that trauma, remembering that piece of paper we've crumpled, that nasty word could be the straw that breaks the camel's back. Do you know what I mean?
100%,
And that's
yeah.
my thing. So it's the and come here, I'm probably one of the most temperamental fucking humans I know, and I have to bite my lip and I have to step back, and I don't always get it right. But if we can take that half a second, take that step back,
Yep.
instead of saying that nasty thing.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So Ray, we're nearly around. We've done 2.5k, which is a lovely stroll, actually.
Yeah.
But so I'm going to ask you, there's two things I like to do when we're finishing up. It's the 12-year-old Ray Power, right? Had all that trauma, you've had that horrible time, you've went through school, right? But now, you now talk to that 12-year-old. What advice would you give him?
Good question. I suppose, don't be hard on yourself for not being able to do well in school, and own it. Like, if I had to open up about I was struggling in school as well, it would have saved me a lot of bother. So I've done that for a long time, and that, I'd commend that 12-year-old for being so strong as well. He was actually stronger. That 12-year-old was stronger person back then than I was at 33, suffering addiction and mental illness.
Yeah.
So I'll give him credit for that. For that 12-year-old, he got me through a lot of hard times in school.
Brave.
He was brave. He got me, like, in school. It was difficult. People calling you dunce and all. A lot of kids around that age can be hurtful to people. And I received a lot of that, and even off teachers in different times now.
Different
times. Put over in the corner and stuff like that. But I dealt with it very well. It didn't really affect my mental health.
Yeah.
So yeah, that 12-year-old was the strongest version ever of Ray Power.
Yeah. So your advice will be to own it, and yeah, that there's to trust in yourself, I suppose.
Believe in yourself, and I suppose I'm back to that stage now, at this stage in my life now, where I'm starting to believe in me. I fall in love with the person I am now today.
Yeah.
I love life.
That's lovely.
Yeah,
That's lovely.
I do love life, and I'm glad I'm here, and I'm glad, the times I did make attempts on my life that it didn't work out, because I have
Yeah.
a lovely message now to share to the
Uh,
young men. And if you look, Baz, at just something that me and you are doing here, okay, we're doing a podcast, but two men coming together.
I don't like, right.
Yeah.
So I'm not even sure if this is a podcast. I don't know
Yeah,
what this
It
is.
is a podcast.
I still have no fucking idea what I'm doing.
It is a pod. No, you're doing very well. You're doing amazing work sharing the message out there. But just me and you having a conversation about how we feel, our life story, and it's our first time meeting today.
Yeah.
How important that is for men. Just find someone in your life that you can open up to like that and go for a little walk and talk.
Yeah.
Because there's huge power in it.
You're massive. Well, I am going to say this. You talk about the bravery that 12-year-old
Yeah.
had. I just want to say that, fuck, like, similar. Thanks for beeping.
Thank you.
How are you?
Yeah, thank you.
I just wanted to say exactly what you just said, more or less, that some bravery in what you've just said there. That's open. That's not rehearsed.
No.
It won't be edited because
No.
I'm a lazy bollocks. And that's two men. Like you said, we've never met each other before. From what people will perceive as two completely different fucking genres in life,
Yeah.
but quite similar.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And sorry. So finally, and like I say, this is my main thing, and probably, so we've went on a long time, but this is my main thing to finish on. What positive advice, or not, how would you like to end this? What would you like people to see and say, "Do you know what, fuck what Ray Power said there, that's going to change how I feel here today."
Yeah, I suppose always my message, like when I was going through my bad mental health and addiction, it could have went either way. I could have took my life, but I thought I was in that life forever. That I could never get back to the old Ray, or but you can, and life can come so fulfilling. Like if I look at the journey I'm on now, helping people in addiction and helping people in recovery, and now I'm a chairperson of Reassure Suicide Intervention Team in Waterford.
Massive. And well done for
Yeah,
that. as well.
thank you. Yeah, and I'm also now on another path where I'm going into prisons in a couple of months to share.
I'm trying to get in myself. believe it
Okay,
or
well,
not, so-
I can work on that with you.
Yeah.
In sharing my story into prisons, and there's times I pinch myself, and I thank Ray for not giving up. And anyone that's out there suffering with mental health and addiction, it comes with a little bit of pain. But if you look at all the pain that goes through our mental health and our addiction, recovery comes with a little bit of pain, but there's an end goal, and it's called a beautiful life. That's my message.
Well, we are genuinely right. Wow, that's fucking phenomenal, and that's a beautiful ending. So
Yeah.
I'm going to shut the fuck up and leave it at that.
Okay.
But I want to say, from Up and At It with Basil, thanks so much for coming up. I want to say thanks a million for being so honest.
Thank you.
And yeah, folks, let me know what you think. But that's a massive, powerful interview, podcast, whatever we call it. I don't know what it is. But jeez, thanks a million.
No,
Powerful.
thank you for having me. Thank you, and thanks everyone.